What's up? I'm Rashawn.
I'm Michelle.
And welcome to the Mischief and Marriage podcast.
Podcast.
Well, it's not actually a podcast yet. Like, it sounds so sweet, like, welcome to the pod. It will eventually be a pod, so let us practice, let us get it off, or whatever. Either way, thank you all so much for rocking with us. Like, I know this is something, this whole community, we just want to salute you all. We've gotten together, we've been vulnerable, we've grown, and I really feel like it's just the beginning. But real talk, if it were up to me, it wouldn't be. This is your thing. Like, why for folks who don't know, why Mischief in Marriage? What was that all about? What's the origin story behind what we're doing right now?
Yeah, so I think we kicked this off 2 years ago.
Might have
Yeah.
been a little longer. Like, did you mind like Mischief in Marriage, or like just the marriage calls we were doing in the past? Because that was like during the pandemic.
Yeah. So maybe a little longer, 2 years plus, 2.5 years. I think it was something where one, everyone was kind of isolated, and so
Mm-hmm.
being able to Skype and video was really the only way to gather. And we've been, not that we have anything together. And always disclaimer, we are not counselors, we are not therapists.
And I don't want to be your counselor. For the record, I'm a coach. I care about action. I don't care about hearing everything you've been through. I love you though. I really do. Michelle's more counselor than Rashawn is. Just putting that out there.
And so I think that it was something, I felt that a lot of people were already coming to us with a lot of questions. We've been together since 2006.
How old were you?
17.
Mm.
And we've been married for coming on to 13 years this year.
Lucky number 13.
So, yeah, or some people see that number as unlucky, so depending on your perspective. But anyways, so I think it's something where I felt like it was just heavy to just share information, have a space where we can still learn and grow from others and not just be the person pushing out information, but also hearing from others who have experienced other situations in life and marriage, and learning to cohabitate. Cohabitate? Is that right?
Listen, because it's our thing, we can really say whatever we want. Nobody checking for
Okay.
us. You know,
Well,
nobody
anyways,
checking for us.
with each other, even when you're walking through a season. Sometimes it's together and sometimes it's
We
separate.
may collaborate, but this is
Elaborate.
collaborate.
What did I say?
Cohabitate. We are living together though.
Okay.
So it's all good. I mean, so what?
And I will screw up words on a daily.
We should have that. We should have like a word count because it's hilarious. Like, if anybody that knows Michelle has known her for more than 5 years, know
If they
that
sound
she
great, I'll
has
say
her-
them with confidence.
oh, straight confident. So she has like her own dictionary at this point. Hilarious. Anyways, go ahead.
But yeah, so I think just coexisting in the process when you're walking through different seasons of life. Yeah, I think it was just learning to lean and grow from people and be better, because I don't think that marriage can become stagnant.
That's good. I'm moving on. Okay, there we go. So, and where did the word mischief come from? Like, a lot of people ask, like, why mischief? Isn't that bad? And like, if you look up just the raw definition, Webster's definition, the first word for mischief is like a playfulness. And I think that's important to keep in your marriage and your relationship, is just like childlike fun that you get to have, right? Because marriage is difficult. Having a family and raising kids is difficult, but at the center should be two things: Christ and fun, because it's not something you have to do. Like, you get to do it. So welcome. I know coming into this year, we wanted to meet live with our community, with you all, once a month on Zoom. Like, if you've somehow found this video and you're not in our community, click the link and I don't know, it'll be somewhere. There's a Facebook group in our YouTube description. You can click that and get the link there, or shoot us a message and we'll make sure you get the link to sign up to be with us on the first Sunday of the month. Is live, and we come together for an hour, hour and a half, and we just have a good time, man. A bunch of other couples, and we're transparent. What did Pastor Mike Todd says? He says hot, humble, open, and transparent. And that's what those calls are. We get to hear from people who are walking through things, people who've overcome things, and we just get to have a good time. So we love it. But then you also had the idea of like, what if we just took some of the content? Because sometimes there's a lot of content that people are sharing that we share, and we just went deep on a topic or two once a month and uploaded it for folks to listen to with their spouse or in a small group or whatever that looks like, and go through some things and be super practical and have those things apply. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to do that, the Mischief in Marriage podcast to be. You get what I'm saying? And so, welcome. I want to do this. I want to do a fair or foul because I like doing them.
Oh my gosh.
Huh?
Nothing.
Huh? Fair or foul, y'all. Now, I want you all to be the judge. Because maybe I'm wrong. I'm rarely wrong. But when I am, I'm really, really wrong. I'm wrong a lot, okay? And so I'm really, really wrong a lot. But I don't think I'm wrong about this. Fair or foul? Let me set the table here. Because before you have Thanksgiving...
And you bit this from...
Wow. I borrowed it from someone who's borrowed it. But I borrowed it from the person who is probably responsible for me being a speaker. That's Dr. Eric Thomas. And on their podcast, every once in a while, they do a fair or foul. And I want to borrow it, Dr. Eric Thomas, from you. And fair or foul. Let me set the table. Because if you're going to have dinner on Thanksgiving, somebody set the table. And it looks beautiful, and you can't wait to eat the food that's in front of you. So let me set the table. You mentioned just a little bit ago, we've been together since 2006, right? Which we were babies, right? You still look, my goodness, you still look fire, girl. The way your hair looking right now, if we even make it through this podcast. Anyways, you're not a huge like social media person. I love how you post. I love you. It's all about parenting. It's all about your relationship or cheerleading. I love it. But I've noticed something. Like over the past, let's call it 4 to 5 months, there's a shift that happened with your social media, and I think it's foul. But we'll let the people decide here, right? So you've had Facebook since 2007, huh? And this is crazy because she knows where I'm going. No, since 2007, she's had Facebook, right?
Oh, gosh.
And...
weren't we here to encourage people?
No, I'm here. If y'all are hanging out, I really got to get this stuff off. I can't afford therapy. Y'all are my people. So listen, fair or foul? Because since 2006, you've had, I think, 28 profile pictures.
He's counted.
Huh? Make every day count. Make every profile picture count. We're going to make Facebook great again. So, and I've been in all of them, with the exception of one in college, because you got pissed at me, and you changed the profile picture for like 12 hours, and then changed it back to me and you real quick. So, from 2006 all the way to 2023, I've been in all of them. And then out of nowhere, you started posting, I wouldn't call them thirst traps, but they can quench somebody's thirst. You look at it the right way. A couple fire pics. And I was cool. Now, I gave you the first one. I'm like, because I was with you that night. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man.
You took the picture.
I took the picture. So I'm like, cool. I still feel like I'm spiritually connected. I see people comment, oh, girl, baddie alert. Oh, go get him, girl. Dudes, by the way, when we get a new pic, dudes be like, I ain't know that you got a new pic. Them girls be showing love. So I love to see it. I gave you that one. And then just a couple weeks ago, you went out to a Christmas party looking like a goddess, sending me pictures, texting me. I'm like, you looking bad. I'm sighting you, gassing you up, pouring gasoline on the flame. And the picture that I gassed the most, that was between me and you, I woke up one morning and realized she had shared that thing with the world via...
No, that is not the one that I shared.
No, via updated that thing, put it on Facebook, talking about with the kissy face, looking so fire.
It doesn't have a kissy face.
It don't matter. And I'm not in the photo. And so
okay, if you're describing the picture, describe it correctly, because you were down to the detail of 28 pictures, so make sure that you're describing it correctly.
She's sitting on top of TVs and stuff. Right? Looking so good in the photo, and everybody commenting.
And
I see the hearts and real
only.
Good vibes only. Do you think that was a good vibe for your husband? So you want to be a public success and a private failure? Hey, good vibes. And so I feel like it's foul. Y'all let me know.
I guess when you get married, he's trying to say that you lose your own personal identity.
Oh my goodness! That's what the young kids call gaslighting in 2024. I never said anything like that. Now, I don't want to take it as far as having, y'all know those weirdos who have the Facebooks with Sean and Michelle's Facebook. I'm joking. I think that's cute when the couples do that. I don't want to share a Facebook with you, but golly. So I think, is it fair or foul? Y'all drop it in the comments. Is it fair or is it foul? I think it's super foul.
What's the question? The fair or foul?
The question is what she's done going from 28 photos to the last 2 profile pictures.
Being by myself.
Dolo!
Not having you in it.
I'm not in it at all. If I were to see that.
How many profile pictures am I in of yours? Do we need to go back? And he didn't freeze. We are not frozen. Hello.
Your video is frozen. Listen, it doesn't matter. And so here's why it doesn't matter.
So, why is it that you haven't had me in your profile pictures?
I wanted to have you. You said, hey, babe, I want to be in the background. I don't want all these people out here messaging me. Fair or foul? Don't let her bring her question into my question. Is it fair or is it foul? We want to hear from y'all now. Can we have a conversation?
Please.
Because people got places to go.
Please.
People have places to be. People have children. They want to hear our problems.
Okay.
Anyways, we want to talk about a topic or two every time we do these, right? And so, do we have a topic for today? What's our topic?
I think we had a couple. Yeah, we even dropped a little post and had people say what are some things that they wanted to hear, certain things that we touched on, and so. I think, we have a couple to go off of today.
So that first topic, and we're going to do this on an ongoing basis. If you have something that you want to hear more of, something that you would like us to touch on the podcast or even live on the calls, be sure to drop those in our community on our Facebook group. So the first one I thought it was awesome, was, hey, how to diffuse an argument and stay calm in a situation when parenting. And so let me make sure, because sometimes I will read something and I filter it through my brain and it's not correct. Mm-hmm. The way I read that was they want to know how to stay calm and diffuse situations in moments of high emotion and energy while parenting. I don't think it was about with the spouse that you're maybe arguing with. It sounded to me like, how do I stay calm and lead the kids while parenting? Is that how you heard it, or did you hear it differently?
I heard it differently.
Okay.
I had heard it. This is how I read it. So. Okay. Let me pull it up. Tips and tricks to diffuse an argument or how to try to calm the situation when parenting.
Could be 50-50, right? Could be both. Let's approach it real quick. Let's just take a minute from both angles. Let's do it that way. So how do we, when we're with our kids, because come on, like we have 3 kids, and it's difficult sometimes, especially when one's becoming a teenager. Mm-hmm. You feel like you're having the same conversation over and over and over again, and it's easy to lose your top when parenting.
Yeah.
Right? It's easy to get frustrated. You've had a long day at work or whatever, things are happening, and you've had a long day. Do you, off the top, have any tips and tricks for how to diffuse things while parenting or while having heightened emotion with your kid?
While parenting, sure. I think oftentimes, I feel like with any relationship, it's easy to carry our baggage along with us and then lash out to the one closest to us. One closest to us. And so oftentimes, I'll feel stressed because I have 4, 5 different things that I know that I need to get done for the day, or I brought back home and still have this long list of tasks in my head. Mm-hmm. And so if the kids are coming up, can I have this? Mom, can you help me open this? Mom, can I go do that? Nay, can you see this? Mom, look at this. And so when they're, coming in, I feel like it's adding on to everything else. And I'm like, just give me a minute. And in that moment, they have no idea that I'm processing 5 other things. Oftentimes kids just live in the moment, right? And so they're coming up to show me something or ask for help or, I think that it's just something I'm trying to even work on through myself, just trying to make sure that I'm in the headspace to say, hey, they need some attention right now, or they're might be actually needing some help. And instead of me looking at it as a hassle, I need to help. Yeah. I just need to be a little more graceful with them.
I like that. I love that and I wanted to acknowledge the fact that you've gotten better at that. I know that you've been working on it, and it's something that I love seeing. Because I know and the reason why it's difficult to unlearn some of these things, because the way we respond is oftentimes we're responding and taking the worst traits from our parents that we hated when we were kids. Mm-hmm. And we end up doing those things that we hated when we were kids. And you mentioned that you want to make sure you're in the right headspace. I think a lot of that has to do with the heart space,
Right.
the condition of your heart, where you're at spiritually, where you're at, and just with everything you have going on. And so I guess my challenge is to recognize that in those moments, when emotion is high, we know that logic is low. But I think if you could keep this one thing in mind, is that you are teaching in those moments.
Yeah, it's good.
Right? Like you don't need to react. What we need to do is respond. You are teaching in those moments. You are literally showing your children how to respond in situations like this. And I think if we just let's jump out a little bit. Like,
well, let me even say I'm gonna pop in here. I'm working through Proverbs, and Proverbs 2:2 says, "So train your heart to listen when I speak, and open your spirit wide to expand your discernment. Then pass it on to your sons and daughters."
Oh, that's a bar.
And so that was impactful to me because what am I? You talked about what we learned behavior we tend to carry on with us, positive and negative, right? So what seed have I sown in my kids? Are they not worthy of attention just because I have 500 million other things going on? Are they, in that moment I just keep saying, give me a minute, give me a minute, give me a minute. Have I gone back and addressed them after I've given them 20 minutes? And I think in those moments we really need to say, hey, and not in every case, right? There is a time where, hey, I do need a minute. But if they just need something cut open, how big is their need in that moment? And can I pause my brain for a minute, address them, and then continue back? Because how often sometimes do we go to the Lord where we want instant answers, and we say like a question, God, where are you? Have you forsaken us? And we know that's not the case, but it's the same thing with kids. They want the instant gratification. I think it's just pausing in the moment and really thinking. But I love that, it's training your heart and your mind to expand your discernment, then pass it on to your sons and daughters.
I love it because the scriptures say that the sins of the parents visit the third and fourth generation. And I believe, because I'm a mindset guy, I'm a neuroscientist guy, I truly believe that there are good things that I do, that you do, that I hope that my kids are picking up what we're laying down. But I know undoubtedly that there are some things that I don't do well that they're catching as well. And so I love that the Proverbs says that literally, like, training yourself in a way that we are growing and evolving so that we're passing the right things to our kids. And so ultimately, again, you're teaching. In those moments, you are teaching your children how to respond. And we're showing them the level in which you can get to pace. Great, not pace, but just patience and grace and humility. Those are things that I want for Alea, Avery, and Ari, right? Not short temper, not screaming because my mom used to scream, right? And so because I don't think that things move unless I get upset and I'm hostile, there's a level that I have to grow out of. So I can appreciate that. But what about the other side? Oh, my thing just died. Look at this, bro. Get out of here. What about the other side of it? What about the other side? We looked at it, and so we spoke about it from a parenting standpoint. But what about diffusing? I think that kind of rolls into the next question anyways, which was how to disagree in a positive way. So let's kind of, because we could also read that first question, how to argue and fight fairly in front of kids while we're parenting. And let's kind of sandwich those and transition into that next question, how to disagree in a positive way in front of our kids too. Do you have anything that just kind of immediately comes to you?
Well, you touch on that first, since I did the other one first.
I think for me, we were saying something last week is, seek to understand rather than being understood.
That's good.
I thought that resonated with me so much because as a person who communicates, I always want to ensure that I'm understood. Am I clear in this, how I transition from this point to this point? And the problem is that is carried over into my marriage. I want you to understand me. Right? I want you to make sure that I'm understood. But the real goal is to ensure that I understand you.
Yeah.
And if you're operating in that same capacity, with that same spirit, there's this level of fostering and nurturing each other that we're doing. But in terms of just how to disagree, I think come on, you know how many kids are messed up in the world because they never saw their parents fight? So we could create an environment.
Fair fighting.
Come on.
Healthy disagreements. I don't know. I want to even call it fighting because you can agree to disagree. I think even to this day, there's some parenting stuff that I do that you don't fully agree with, and vice versa.
Spanking! Huh? Sorry about that.
And so, but I think it's more or less finding a reason why. And I think that we've done a good job of not trying to transform each other, change each other, make us, you become me, I become you. Like, we are in alignment together, but I don't want to change all your ideologies. I don't want to change how you respond to everything.
That's
I don't
good.
want to, at the same time, I don't want you to try to change me, versus just understand who I was created to be and help me walk together in alignment with our own past, but with our own thoughts, with our own minds.
I like that.
AKA, this is why I can have my own picture on my...
And see, don't use my words against. We've already gotten past that. They've already in the comments
on
said...
Facebook.
They've already in the comments said, foul. She foul, bro. What you still... And so, no, I love what you're saying, right? Like, we want to compliment and enhance one another, not necessarily change. But let's go back specific, because there's people like, okay, I get that, but we're at each other's heads all the time. It's fight fair. Don't listen. Fight with, not against.
Yeah, and don't always just say, like, he has to do it my way. Have you sat down and really evaluated, like, hey, this is...
My way. You know, Usher doing the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, praise God. You are not a singer and you're a public speaker. But, so, he is doing...
Yeah, he's gonna kill it. He got like 40 years of song.
That's the only time I watch the Super Bowl, y'all. I just want to watch
Usher about to cook. And see, that's how my ADHD. You see how my mind works? It's sick, man. I'm in the moment with you. But
I watch it for the commercials and the halftime performance. After that, I don't even know half the time who plays in the Super Bowl.
Commanders are being there this year. Okay. You know, it was testing. You know that we ain't win but 4 games. We ain't make the playoffs. Anyways, go ahead.
Okay. Anyways. Let's come back. We might need to cut that part out. So anyways, I think it's just important. I think that oftentimes when you're in a fight, you only see it your way. You want that person to see it your way. And versus sometimes just having that conversation of like, this is why I'm feeling this way. This is why I reacted this way. This is why I'm in a heightened state. This is why and then that person can say, hey, okay, I didn't realize you had all that going on. Or maybe I see it. And maybe just having that conversation instead of saying it has to just be my way, his way, her way. Let's find a way and go from there. I think it's so often we want to change other people's opinions and perspectives versus respecting them, allowing them to have that and actually having a conversation as to why. And then at the same token, like if something that's triggering to you, I may not agree with it being a trigger. It might not be a trigger for me, but it's something, I'm just going to throw out something simple because it's on the top of my head. You don't like when dirty dishes sit in the sink. Now, we have we have a smaller sink anyways, so it's not like a whole lot piles in there, but I try to make it a point if I know that he's coming upstairs at a certain amount of time, or I know that he's coming home from a trip, I'll try to ensure that there's not dirty dishes in the sink. It doesn't bother me. I don't even want to say it's a trigger for him. It's not like he comes in and blows us top because there's dirty dishes, but it's something that matters to him. So at the same time, if I know that it's a trigger, am I going to continue throwing like daggers in that just to trigger him and get a response? Or do I say, okay, I don't fully agree with always having every single dish washed, but I'm gonna do it because it's gonna we're not gonna disagree over it. It's not that big of a deal. So always giving and taking a little bit and just respecting and hearing the other person out before just coming in with guns blazing.
I like that.
Boxing gloves on.
I mean, you took it a direction I wasn't going to. That's awesome because it complements what I'm about to say. Because that's a part of it for just finding how to honor, how to literally sacrifice and serve somebody else, right? Mm-hmm. But then when people were still like, oh man, but y'all don't get it, y'all don't get it, y'all understand, y'all argue like me. I mean, we argue. Listen, we you and I get into it, but I think one of the things I've learned about you is that we fight for each other. Sometimes, again, it can get dicey. You and I believe conflict avoidance, conflict multiply. We will say and have the conversations that we need to have, but I recognize that at the end of the day, you'll be the one person that's always in my corner. Mm-hmm. But how do we get past, how do we grow to that next level? Because there's people who still get caught up on the emotion of everything. But I'm pissed. But I'm sad. It's like, listen, when emotion is high, logic is low. So how do we find a way to do this? You hear us say this all the time if you're in our marriage community. How do I focus on getting it right instead of being right? Mm-hmm. I have to get out of that emotion. There's this heightened level of emotion, and I have to find a way to get out of that emotion and into the logic. I have to put the logic in the driver's seat, not the emotion. It's fun being emotional, but let's not allow emotion to drive the car. If your whole family was in a minivan, like our family being in a minivan, would you want emotion in the driver's seat?
No.
Absolutely not, right? And so the same thing is true about what's driving your marriage. Get emotion out of the driver's seat. And so I have a quick little acronym. I hope that it can bring value. And I hope that it makes sense within the context of things. It's something I wrote down. I'm going to do it really quick. And I'll drop it in the notes so you all can have it too. But it's called PIVOT. PIVOT. This is something that's applicable that I've used in different organizations that help leaders make better decisions in the moment when emotion is high and logic is low. Are y'all ready? Type ready. I know it's not live, so you don't have to type ready. Anyways, the P stands for pause and process. When you're angry, when you and I are going through it, 90% of the time, if our argument goes over the top, it's because one of us didn't pause and process.
For sure.
We're just in it. Oh, I'm pissed off, and I'm going to get off what I need to say. I've been waiting all day to say this. Are you serious? And then it's the other things that have happened all day around you, whether it's the kids, something happened at work, something happened, whatever you're responsible for, and you're not pausing and you're not processing. But after you pause and you process, the I stands for inquire. Back to what we talked about. Seeking to understand.
Yep.
Because how many times have I been pissed about something I just didn't understand you?
Right.
Like you didn't even mean it that way. And because I'm in my feelings, because emotions in the driver's seat, my logical side of my brain is not working, I heard it through my filter of being pissed, insecure, whatever, and I didn't even. So now we end up having a 2-hour argument, and I didn't even understand.
The intent of the comment was never malicious. It was just a comment.
And it's like, if I would have said, hey, man, I know I'm in a bad mood. Did I hear you say this? And you would have been like,
yeah.
No.
That's what, friends that I talk to, their therapists have told them, their actual licensed therapists have always said, to sometimes then seeking to understand, pausing, making sure that, hey, what I heard you say was this. And then so my understanding was this, correct me. Like, this is what I heard you say. So I heard you say that you hate doing this. Mm-hmm. Or it really infuriates you when I say this. And so you could then counteract me and say, I didn't mean it that way. Let me help, seeking to understand. Let me help you understand what I actually meant.
That's good, man. And this, I imagine y'all watching this and y'all are probably right now like, oh my gosh, I can think of countless arguments that, A, we didn't pause and process, or we got right into not trying to understand. I wanted to be understood, and it just blew up from there. Mm-hmm. But we need to learn how to literally pivot away from, actions and behavior that is destructive to how do we pivot. So pausing, processing, then the I, inquiring about that, then the V. The V is being vulnerable. What? The last thing you want to be when you are in a mood, when you're pissed, when you're angry, is vulnerable.
For sure.
But vulnerability to me is the one thing that shows real strength and real constraint. Because when I can say, okay, I heard what you said, I inquired, and you told me, yeah, you did mean that because you were pissed too. And I say, that hurt my feelings. That broke me. That made me feel really upset. That put me in a situation I felt like I did when I was 11 years old. Vulnerability. When's the last time you were this vulnerable with your spouse? Maybe you've not created the space to be vulnerable with your spouse.
Yeah, I was going to say, that also, I feel like part of this is some steps that you have to work through, right? Because has your spouse created that, and we tend to call it a safe space, because sometimes when you become vulnerable, in turn, that can be used against you. Mm-hmm. If you're in I don't even want to say toxic. If you're in an unhealthy...
If your environment and your relationship hasn't been healthy from a communication standpoint.
Right. Yeah. And so then it can be flipped on you. And so being vulnerable is sometimes exposing, where you just feel completely, I want to say you completely butt naked. Right? And so, let's not. And so vulnerability can be something that where we have this guard and wall up because in the past maybe I've been vulnerable with you and you threw it back in my face or you used it as a weapon in fights and arguments.
That's good.
So vulnerability, again, these are like something to work through and steps for sure. But really having some tools or places to start versus having nothing at all and continue to repeat the same cycle. I mean, you can have a hammer and a nail and a screwdriver. You can't not continue to use a screwdriver as your hammer.
But you know what they said? I love that you just used that analogy. They said when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Right? So when you're hard-headed and you're angry, everything around you looks like a nail. And that was a screw over there. Oh my gosh, that's a wrench. But everything in your sight looks like a nail. Your kids look like a nail. Your spouse looks like a nail. Your co-workers look like a nail. And it's like, how do I step out of that emotion? I'm able to see things.
Use other tools. Where are the other tools that we need to start pulling and using? Anyways.
You're good at this, man. I've been creating content longer than you. You're making me look like I'm following you. Okay. O is outcome. What is the desired outcome right now? We get into it, and I believe our mentors and folks who helped lead our first Married Discover Night, which was an event that we did where we pulled in several couples, and we just spent the night together. We went deep in content. We had incredible food and conversation. We got to bring that back. But our mentors, Skip and Donna, came out, and they said something that I've heard referenced multiple times with different couples that were there. They called it a race to the bottom.
Yep.
And so when you don't have that desired outcome, what is the desired outcome of this disagreement? If you don't have a desired outcome and you're going in multiple directions and you want to be right, not get it right, and you're seeking to be understood and not understand, you're racing to the bottom because you don't have a desired outcome. If I look at my wife and I know that the outcome is not to be in this heated debate right now, the desired outcome is to walk away with a better understanding, then that should in that moment allow me to say, take a step back. I know the desired outcome. I know you know the desired outcome. I know you don't want this. We're racing in the wrong direction. We're not going toward our goals. We're not going toward our God, and we're racing to the bottom. What's the desired outcome? Ask yourselves that in the middle of an argument, after you've been vulnerable, hold on a second. Maybe you've been vulnerable and it's still going in a negative direction. Then let's look at it and say, we are not going to get the desired outcome from this conversation.
Yeah.
Let's press pause. You go to your corner, I'll go to mine. We'll pray on it. I love you, nonetheless, but we're not getting the desired outcome.
And just making sure that you are not pressing your own agenda. Like, is the agenda, are you all on the same calendar and on this? You might not be on the same day, but are you in the same month? Like, hypothetically speaking. So, do I just want it my way? Because that's what my rational mind tells me is correct and right. So I'm just going to push it and say, no matter what happens, this is my way and I'm not budging and I'm not right. Like, where are we racing? Are we going to, I'm trying to bring myself in alignment, or am I trying to just say it is just my way and he has to conform to what I think is right?
Back to being one flesh, right? And I think I said it in our Facebook community, that we get married and it says the two shall become one flesh. Mm-hmm. But what we end up doing in the world is try to figure out which flesh we should become more like.
Yeah, it's okay.
Right, like we become more like Rashawn. We become more like Michelle. Jesus is like, bro, both of y'all are some trash. No. You become more like me. One flesh becoming more like Christ. And so I love that you said that, like pushing the agenda. I want to be right. No, I want to get it right. And I want to get it right with you. What's the desired outcome? Which, like you said, it requires steps. What is your shared vision? What are your family's values?
And this is never going to be, do we do these? No. This is why we're still working through these. This is why that we're still transparent and vulnerable. Because if somebody has some other tidbits and tools, and please share. Mm-hmm. Like, we want to get this right. We want our children's children to see a marriage, a healthy, long-lasting marriage, because we haven't, on either one of our families, we haven't seen that. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to be trials, there's going to be triumphs, there's going to be, but let's share, and I feel like that's the whole goal. Let's share in how we've learned and have overcome some things. Learning that. I don't know if that's just a little plug that I'm just saying. We don't have this all together. Do we do this? Absolutely not. Not all the time. But are we better than what we were several years ago? Yeah. I would say 100%. 80% at least better.
I said 100, but maybe
but we're better.
But what you
and
said,
we can see it. And then too, oftentimes I think it's being vulnerable and saying, hey, I see that in that moment, like, thanks for not coming back at me, because I'm pretty much, I'm the yeller. I'm the one that yells often, and I'm quick to do
Hallelujah.
That was so extra.
Praise him.
Anyways, I'm the one that is not. I become irrational quickly.
We should have been potted a long time ago.
I become irrational quickly, and not necessarily using logic in my statements. And so I think it's important when he has also pointed out times like, hey, I saw that. And so I think that needs to be reciprocated. It's important because, hey, I saw that, I recognize that, right? So sometimes it's even vulnerable to give a compliment. Wouldn't you say so?
Oh my gosh, because you feel so defensive, right?
Right.
And you want to be seen and you want to be understood. But when we recognize I'm doing it for my spouse, a little bit goes a really long way. So when you tell me, hey, I saw you do that. Hey, thank you for doing it, makes me feel like, oh, okay, man, that's reciprocation. You appreciate what I'm doing, and I'm trying.
What's your statement? You
get more of what you magnify.
There you go.
You get more of what you magnify, right? And so if I'm magnifying all the time, I'm putting labels on you, and I'm magnifying all the things you do wrong, at some point you're going to begin to identify as those words that I'm saying.
And then what's the point of me trying? Because even when I tried to do something, you didn't see that, and then I screw up again, and all you're doing is lashing out the gates of hell on me again. You're telling me everything that I've done wrong again. And I'm like, man, over the past couple days, I've really tried. I've stepped it up. I've done this. I've had the house clean. I've washed the dishes. I've had dinner prepped. You didn't say anything about that, but I left, something else out. And
I didn't
you
flush the toilet,
that.
And there was a turd sticking out. That's great. No, that didn't happen, but that's you deserve to be cussed out if that happened, man. Don't do that.
So I'm just saying the little things, and you've also said you water what you water
I don't
grows. Know all his things, but
what you water grows. You know, right. I'm enough. That just turned me on a little bit. That you said a couple things that I say. I'm over here feeling like a big dog.
Okay,
right
we gotta
now.
finish the tea.
Okay,
sorry.
The last thing is T. T is
okay. Wait a minute. What was O?
Huh?
What was O?
What?
What was O?
O was outcome.
Okay, sorry.
And T is what's the takeaway? Now, once we've come to the end of it, because there's no such thing.
A takeaway should not be brought up in the middle of a heightened argument.
Correct. To me, it's after things have been diffused, after you sought to understand, not be understood. Now the question is, what do we learn from that, babe? Like, what did we learn? Okay, man, I learned that.
And that might be something you have to revisit in a few days. And so the easiest thing to do is, how do we know when we're going to revisit that, or how do we do? Put it in your notes and have it something, or even send a text message the next day. Something where your tone and the feeling can has hopefully come down, and you can say, hey, I really want to come back to this. I want to take away. How could I respond better? How could I have seen it your way a little bit better? Or just, again, seeking to understand. I don't know how much more that we can put that out, but responding is so much because we're defensive. We want to do it my way. We want to, they have to see it my way. They have to do it my way. But it's not, like, marriage is not just one way. I don't want to do everything the way he does it. And in turn, I certainly don't want him to do everything the way that I want it. That's why, as husband and wife, according to the Bible, I'm called to be your helpmate. And so there's blind spots that you see, or that I have, and vice versa. And so coming together, being able to say, oh man, I didn't see it that way before. I don't know if I 100% agree, but maybe worth giving it a try, giving it a shot, giving whatever it is. So can you briefly just go down and say what the P's just in order?
Absolutely. Pivot. We're going to pivot in these moments. So we got pause and process. The I is inquiring. Hey, did I really hear you say that? V, vulnerability. O, what's the outcome here, the desired outcome? And T, once the situation's been diffused and we can come back in a healthy manner, what's the takeaway? What did we learn? That's how we pivot when emotion is high and logic is low.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Did you want to do anything from takeaway? Because I kind of elaborated on that.
Takeaway?
Mm-hmm.
No, I thought that was good.
Okay.
I thought that was fantastic. Okay. You're smart.
And I also want to say, if your house is in the middle of war, that's when I get my tongue tied. World War III. You can't go back to the first battle and expect all of the other battles to just be washed away. I say that, and that to me is like what could have been. I have used the example. What could have been just a small snowball fight turns into an entire avalanche because you've never went back. There's no takeaways from your argument. There hasn't been, how do we get better? How do we grow from this? Where's the tools that have applied for any argument or disagreement that you had? Have you sought an understanding? Have you found a resolution? But so I'm saying to you, if your house is in entire chaos, we cannot continue to carry every single battle along with us. We have to start layering. Like, okay, if this is the current issue at hand, we have to deal with this right now. We can't sit down for 20 minutes and talk about all of the things that have happened, especially if you've been together. There's multiple layers to your relationship, right? But start somewhere. Start at the current battle, right? Start at the current situation. Let's digest, find some solution. Let's try to be rational about the situation.
What's the win? What's the win? W-I-N. What's the win? What's happening? What's hold on. No. What's important now?
Yeah.
When? What's important now? I feel like when I heard when I heard what you were saying, I saw this analogy of me walking around my house with gasoline all the time. I'm walking around. And so when I have one little spark up with you in the kitchen, it's
the
about
whole
to
house
blow.
is on fire.
That's so many people, us included. We didn't deal with issues. We got stuff going on. I'm traveling. We haven't connected, and it's gasoline all over the house. And the second we're talking about the socks that I can't find for the whole house up in flames. So how do we get the win? What's important now? Let's talk to it now. Because at the end of the day, it's not. We know it's not the socks, and we know we don't have any meat laid out for dinner. We know that we've not connected, and there's deeper things. Back to vulnerability, but back to creating a space for vulnerability, and back to what you said. There's a lot of steps that have to happen to get to the level we want to get to. So don't listen to this podcast and be like, "We got a lot of work to do." Hell, we do, but that's why we do this, so we can do it together, babe. Do we have any application questions? Because I think what I do a lot, what I suck at, is I'll give a lot of content. Application questions or like follow-up challenge for folks.
Oh, like when follow-up challenge. Yeah, like, pivot in the middle of an argument. Pivot. Start somewhere. Today is always a great day to start somewhere. Like, I want to become a better version of me as a mother and a friend and a wife and all of the things than I was yesterday. And so starting today is starting somewhere. So
one day or day one, you can keep saying, "Oh, we're gonna do it one day. We're gonna do this one day," or today can be day one.
Oh, sorry.
We were so close. Oh, we were so damn close. She gonna get it. I love it. Okay, application question for me. Application question I want you to ask. This is about the first point that we made. You know, how to argue and stay calm in front of kids. Ask yourself this: what actions am I doing while angry that I don't want to pass on? Have that conversation with your partner. Man, what is it that I'm doing when I'm angry? What is it that I'm saying when I'm angry? What habits do I have when I'm emotional that I don't want my son to do to his wife, that I don't want my daughters to receive from their spouse or be able to do to their spouse?
Normal behavior.
Yeah, come on. Like, I think that's an application question because when we think about it that way, it forces us out of our own shoes. And if this, in 15 years from now.
Into your rational mind.
Come on. If 15 years from now, if Alea calls just like, my husband's doing this, this, and this.
And I'm like, this is what she saw.
This is what she saw.
I'm to blame that she allows that behavior.
Come on. Or your daughter calls you and she's screaming about something she said to her husband. You're like, oh man, she saw me doing
It would
that.
Just be, I would have to hold a mirror up to myself.
Come on. And so ask yourself, get with your spouse after you've done this and really have this application question. Like, what action am I doing while angry that I don't want to pass on?
Right.
And then I have one follow-up challenge for you as well. You had mentioned the pivot. I'm glad you did that. Follow-up challenge. Revisit. Sit down and really take time to do this. Revisit a recent disagreement, right? Like, now that all the emotions out of it, right? Like, come in it logical, not emotional. And say to yourselves, like, come to a recent disagreement that you can remember and determine how pivot, P-I-V-O-T, how could the pivot acronym, you saw that? I think I did like 6. So
Sorry.
She got me. The pivot acronym of recent disagreement. Determine how the pivot acronym could have helped. Go back through it. Really ask yourself, man, where could I have paused? Where could I have inquired? How could we have been vulnerable? How could I focus on the desired outcome?
And I want to just keep elaborating on this. When I sit down and I want to talk about the current argument, and I say, hey, when you said this, I would hope the vulnerability in you wouldn't be like, well, you've said it or done it car. Like, now we're bringing in all the other baggage again. Let's talk about that current fight so that we don't keep revisiting this same unhealthy cycle of disagreements, arguments. Now, be okay and understand that disagreements are sometimes needed and they're healthy and okay. It's not saying that you're going to walk around peaceful, floating around, and everyone is just walking. Disagreements are okay, but it's how we respond where it
think about it. Like, the roads are icy as hell right now, right? And if you're not careful, you're going to slide all over the place. What do we need? We need friction to move forward.
Right.
You need friction to go in a positive direction, right? We just don't want to go in circles. And so that's what happens sometimes when we bring up stuff that doesn't matter. I'm glad that you mentioned that. So just revisit a disagreement that you had recently and say...
And so say your partner does do that. Again, let's say, hey, what I hear you saying is a lot of other conflict that we've had in the past. I want to really stay focused on this current issue.
The win. What's important now?
Right.
What's important now? I get all those things matter. I'm not disregarding those things and the trouble and the hurt that I've caused.
Right.
But what's important now?
Yeah. And how do we want to move forward? Like, if I've always heard the statement, it's a good thing that our windshield is so much bigger than our rearview mirror.
Come on.
Because if I'm driving with my rearview mirror, I'm not going the correct direction, and I'm certainly not seeing anything coming in my way. So, or the opportunities and the places that I'm going.
I ever tell you how I got in that car accident? When I was 16?
No.
I was looking at my rear view. Me and DJ looking, saw a couple girls. I'm looking in the rear view, and I got in a car accident as a result of that. I should have been paying attention to. And if I was looking at, if I was, you know what I'm saying, if I was with you, of course that wouldn't have happened. But when you came into my life, things changed everything, right? That's the first thing I thought about, girl. I'm sorry. What else we got for folks today? Got anything?
I think that's all.
Man.
So takeaways. Learn to pivot. Even actually pivot. Maybe pivot yourself or remove yourself from the room in the situation when you know it's too high.
That's important. But when you recognize that desired outcome is not going to be reached in this emotional state,
right? It's
okay to say, hey, I'm going to go to my corner. I love you.
But please revisit it. I don't think that you're going to grow or apply any tools or understand each other if you're not revisiting the conversation. If it gets heightened again, maybe even there was a couple that was in our what do we call it? Our retreat type deal.
Oh, Discover Night.
Yeah. Discover Night. Sorry. That said that they will write stuff down in a notebook, which was really cool because sometimes you can just, and they even said sometimes when they write stuff down and they go back to read it, they're like, oh, I don't even feel that way anymore because it's a couple days later. And so I think that that's important if you feel like you've revisited once or twice or 3 times and you're still just butting heads and not getting anywhere. How about write it? Get a notebook or write it in your notes in your phone and maybe sleep on it for a day and then revisit it the next day and say, oh man, maybe I don't feel this way or I do feel this way still, and send it to each other that way. So if it's not this head on where you feel like you just cannot receive from each other in that situation. But I would really, really try to say, get some resolution in your disagreements. Seek to understand. Find a way that you don't have to repeat that same argument or disagreement later on.
I love that. Thank you for doing this with me. I appreciate it. This is fun.
It is fun.
I said 20 minutes. So what? We're 30 minutes past 20. It don't matter. Listen, all day. I could do this all day long. I love it. Know this, above all else, that a marriage operating the way God intended is literally a reflection of Him. There's nothing more beautiful than the union of 2 people coming together to create one thing. Mm-hmm. And because of that, the enemy would love nothing more than for you to walk out on your spouse. Would love nothing more than for you to be in the streets living a promiscuous lifestyle that doesn't bring him honor and glory. Would love for you to get caught up in a season of singleness and emotion and give yourself away to multiple people and all this stuff. Listen, what God wants for you is the best for you so that you can be the best for the kingdom. And especially if you're married with children right now, man, we are first generation grind it out and work through things and be married and not run away. First generation. So shout out to you. If you're a first generation, I'm married and I'm going to stay with my spouse and I know my parents and my aunts and uncles got divorces or whatever, shout out, because I know you may not have had a lot of examples. of what to do, but you sure as hell had a lot of examples on what not to do. So way to build a house when you don't have a blueprint, and you're going to provide the foundation for your kids and your grandchildren to continue building on what you're doing now. So this is the Mischief and Marriage podcast to be. The inaugural episode went way longer than we thought, but man, how cool it is to be able to just to do this, to share it with you. Love you. Excited to continue doing this with you. And hey, when we hit 1 million subscribers, I don't know when that's going to be. We don't even have one right now, babe. I don't know what to do. I got to lean into this YouTube thing. It's the one piece of content, the one platform I haven't done a lot of work on. But thank you so much. If you're not on our monthly live calls, get the link. Make sure you join. We would love to have you. I don't care where you're joining from. As long as you're ready to come in and be around other couples who don't have it all together, but we're all together to give it all to him, all the glory, then you're welcome. And so, we love you. Anything else?
No.
All right.
I think it's good.
We'll see you next month.